2024, and this meeting is for our LJ Realty team. And let's get started with our interest rates. The interest rates, according to Freddie Mac, they're hovering around 6.32 for your 30-year fixed conforming loans versus your 15-year, which is hovering around 5.41. So we know that Freddie Mac does it on weekly basis, but we follow mortgage news daily, and they're exactly what we saw last Wednesday, 6.62. They came down a few basis points, they went back up a few basis points. We're still hovering around 6.62. So a lot of clients, when I'm having that conversation, hey, I'm ready to buy, but I'm just not ready to lock in the rate for 6.62, right? And they want to wait for the interest rates to come down. They're perfectly fine. They have their own right to wait for that, but they do have to pay the price. And the price is going to be when they're purchasing the same house that they were to purchase today, they have to pay a little bit higher price then later on. Why would that be? Because the interest rates, when they come down, there's more demand for it. There's more buyers trying to buy the same property. So right now, when you're having that conversation, if they're ready to purchase, meaning they already have enough funds, enough down payment, their credit scores are good, and they're renting right now, and they want to do an upgrade. Maybe they just had a addition to their family, maybe a new baby, right? Maybe their circumstances for their family changed, and they have to purchase. So they should not be waiting another 6 months to do so. So you should guide them that, hey, if you're going to be waiting for the interest rates to come down for the same property, you're going to pay a higher price. It's just supply and demand. Okay. If your clients have credit scores over less than 620, then they might have to go with FHA loan. If they're going with FHA loan, there are pros and cons, but look at the interest rates. For interest rates for FHA, they're hovering around 6.09. So if they have to pay upfront cost of 1.75 and the mortgage insurance does not go away right away for FHA, but they do benefit from low interest rates. So the client should be making that decision if they want to go with that FHA loan or not, but we provide them with all the options. Okay, this is a real example for one of our files that we're closing. This person is making over $100,000, but their monthly debt was $1,000 already. And look at the down payment. They were trying to purchase a house for $20,000 down payment, plus their closing cost, right? So with $108,000 income, $20,000 down payment, and $1,000 in monthly debt, and the property taxes they were looking at around 7,300,000 $7,300, they qualify for only $429,000. So this person had to add a cosigner in order to purchase, and they had to bring in a little bit more down payment to purchase the property that they wanted. They were looking for a property that's around $600,000. Okay, so the question that we get is that, hey, my client is saying that I will find a co-signer later. Could you still show me a house that's going to be around $600,000, right? You as a realtor have to feel them out. Say, hey, do I really want to spend the time and show them the property which they don't qualify in today's market? But there are cases where they do find a co-signer and they purchase that property. Okay, so it's all going to be up to you if you're willing to work with them. Okay, you decide if you want to do that. If it was me personally, I will do it. I say, hey, let me show you at least one or two, three, maybe 1 to 3 properties, and that's going to be around $600,000. And if you do have a cosigner and you want to move forward, great. I'm not going to show you any more than that if you don't have any cosigner then. Okay, but it's all up to you. Sometimes you have to make the sacrifices to for the things that you really want. You want to buy a house. If you want to buy a house, that's a big purchase. That means you cannot go buy a car right now. So these small things, you have to have a conversation with your client that, hey, you're trying to buy a house. That's going to be a big purchase. Please, you need to cut back on your luxury goods, entertainment, your clothes, right? So you can save towards your goals, which is going to be your down payment and your closing cost. So you want to guide them, hey, when I'm showing you the properties, right now is not the time to crush down your affordability. You don't want to go buy furniture right now because you don't haven't found a house yet. You don't want to go buy a car right now because you're trying to buy a bigger thing. Okay? So just guide them, hey, cut down on the expenses that are not needed at this moment. And the hunt is on. We always say, hey, typically how a typical buyer, how many weeks will they search for before they actually want to say, hey, I want to go with this property? According to this data, is about 10 weeks, right? More than 2 months, 2.5 months. Typically, they're searching, searching, searching. Really depends on the agent now, how aggressive the agent is, and the agent should be able to go ahead and find them in a quicker manner. But just have some patience that they're buying a house. They need their sweet time to make sure that they're satisfied. We don't want to hear from them, hey, our agent, rushed us to this. It's their decision. Our job is to show the property, tell them the pros and the cons, do the research for them, but let them decide when they're ready to move forward. Okay? An average buyer will look at least 7 homes. There could be more. I give you guys an example that my first closing many, many years ago, it happens to be I showed them only 2 properties. And then my second, I had to show more than 20 properties. So it will always vary from client to client. It just depends on you how long you're going to stick with them for. Okay? Some of them want to view properties online. Encourage them. Say, hey, let's compete. Let's work as a team. We're competing when it comes to new properties. I'm sending you anything that I see on my end, right? I'm setting up alerts for you. But at the same time, if you have Zillow alerts or any other website, that's perfectly fine. But you want to view properties online, but just tell me the address so I can schedule a showing for you so we can see inside. Okay? Just make sure that we remember this. 10 weeks is a average typically, and we're seeing a lot of home buyers want to take their sweet time. And let them, guys. Just be professional, be part of that transaction. Okay. And when it comes to selling, guys, we just had one. I want to give big ups to Vishal, brand new agent of ours, very motivated, wants to learn all the steps and everything. Just called me this morning today saying, hey, I have a for sale by owner. He just saw a sign. He spoke to the owner, and the owner said, hey, yeah, you can come take a look at the property. And, he's asking for around $900,000. And he asked me, could I accompany him? So the answer is yes. If you're a brand new agent, I want to be part of that and, guide you guys. But look at the stat here. The 81% of the recent sellers contact only one agent before finding the right agent to work for, right? To sell their house. So a lot of them are just relying on one or two agents. They're not interviewing five. There are some times where some sellers will do that, but majority of them are not. So the first connection that you have, even if you're brand new, like Vishal right here, you can still get a listing out of that for sale by owner. Okay. So anytime you see a for sale by owner, guy, take some action. We went through that before too. As a realtor, we want to be part of those deals, and you never know when those deals gonna connect with you. Okay. Next, I want to talk about assumable loans, guys, and we just want to know what they are and how they affect you as a real estate agent. Maybe you have a seller that wants to sell their property and they say, hey, I have a really low interest rate. And, if I sell my house, I have an FHA loan and maybe I can give this loan, right, whatever the balance is, to the new buyer and they can pay me the difference. So let's go through that. And one of the headlines was that how a rare type of mortgage is landing home buyers at 3% rate. That means that usually that seller already refinanced their mortgage, maybe around 2020, and the interest rates were around 3%. Now they're selling their property right now, and they want to sell that property with their assumable mortgage. So what are they? They're a type of a loan, a home loan that allows the buyer to take over seller's existing mortgage. So they have the remaining balance, the interest rates, and the repayment terms. So let's say the seller already had a 30-year mortgage. He had the house for maybe he refinanced it 4 years ago, so he has 26 years left. So that 26 years and that loan balance will go to the new buyer. Okay, but not all mortgages are assumable. If there's a conventional loan, typically it will not be assumable. But if it's a FHA, VA, USDA, we usually see that they do allow to be assumable loan with a lender's approval. So now the new buyer that's coming in to take over that mortgage, that current lender wants to make sure that they actually qualify to take over, right? They meet all the guidelines that are necessary. So how do they actually work? So one is that the buyer would agree to take on the existing mortgage for the seller and the down payment. So if the mortgage is for $300,000 and the property value is $500,000, the seller is not giving up that property for $300,000. He wants to sell that for $500,000. So the difference is going to be the down payment, that the $200,000 difference. He's getting the mortgage for 300,000. He's buying it for five. That means the new buyer has to come up with $200,000. Not everybody is sitting around with $200,000 for that difference. So they can get a second mortgage for that down payment difference. Okay. So what are some benefits? So the biggest benefit to the buyer is that today's rate, what we saw was 6.62 averaging. But if you can grab a loan for 3.5, anything below 4%, it should be a benefit to the buyer. If the seller's loan has low fixed rate, the buyer can take over that mortgage instead of getting new higher rates for the today's market. Okay. So what are some benefits to the seller? The seller can increase the market, right? Can have higher offers. So instead of getting an offer for $500,000, because of this assumable loan, maybe the seller will say, "Hey, I'm not selling this property no less than 550. I know the value is around 500,000, but if I want to sell this property, I want to sell it for around 550, higher than market price, right?" So it's going to be pros and cons for that, and it's going to be a faster sale because the new buyer is pretty much taking over the current mortgage that the seller has. So some potential drawbacks, right? How about the buyer's down payment? The difference that we said, the loan balance is much lower than the home value, right? Which we just gave you example. If the property is worth that 500,000, his loan is $300,000. The buyer must cover the difference in cash or in another loan. Okay. And for the seller, not all assumable loans will release them from all the liability. So some of the loans will say, hey, if the new buyer defaults later, we can still bring it back to the original seller. So that's a red flag. I don't want to have to do with anything because once I sell my house, I just want to move on, right? The new buyer, if he has a hardship or she has a hardship with anything, and now that new owner does not pay the mortgages, why should I be held accountable? Okay. So it's going to be pros and cons when it comes to assumable loans. So you just want to make sure that if you're the listing agent, you want to ask your current seller, hey, maybe I can value this property a little bit higher if you have an assumable loan. If he says no, I have a conventional loan or I don't know that, he can simply or she can simply call their mortgage company and say, hey, I just want to verify, I'm trying to sell this house. Is this a assumable loan or not? If it is, then especially if the interest rates are below 4%, that should be an easy sell. Okay. Any questions, concerns on assumable loans, guys? Okay. Next, guys, navigating through the new, this is a headlines, this is navigating the new rules that the NAR has, right? And what best practices that we can really have in place to help out our consumers. So one is that there are a lot of agents of ours as well that are scared with their buyer's presentation. They're scared to ask for any for written agreements. They're scared to, ask for to get paid from the buyer side, and they feel like, hey, not everybody's ready to do that. But we need to stop assuming that. We just need to start doing it, right? Just go through the process and let's see what is the outcome. If the client is not ready, that means they're not ready to buy right now. If they're ready to buy, they will have no problem signing your agreement as long as you explain everything to them. Okay. Some of the this article talks about it too. Some of our realtors mentioned that too. That hey, maybe they want to see the house first and then sign my agreement, right? According to this article, there should be another additional tour agreement, which I don't want. But if you guys really want it as a realtor to do it as a individual, that's perfectly fine. But I do not recommend it. So you might see some articles where they want you to have a tour agreement saying that hey, Sheetal, you're signing an agreement with me just for to tour. It does not mention anything for the commission. It does not mention any of that. Once I start showing you properties and then you want to place an offer, then I have this agreement signed. We don't want that. We want you to have a presentation done, right? We want you to have a presentation done for the buyer's presentation, which you can see on this agreement as well. And it tells you that, hey, a well thought out, easy to understand buyer's presentation is a must. If you're not presenting them with the buyer's presentation, there's no way you're bringing value to them. It's just that simple, right? If they're trying to buy a house, we have to take them through all the steps, guide them all the way. But before even start showing them any properties, a buyer presentation is a must. Okay. After the presentation, the buyer representation agreement is signed, right? You have spent maybe half an hour with them through the presentation, and now you have all your agreements signed, right? That should be done in this at the same time. If for any reason they don't want to sign right now, hey, let me read it over later. Okay, take these documents, but just remember, I cannot show you any properties until you go ahead and sign these documents with me. Okay. And do mention the word decoupling. When we're saying decoupling, that means that the sellers are basically paying their commission to their agent. And do mention that, hey, as a buyer, you want to go work with the listing agent. That listing agent is going to ask you for a buyer's agreement as well, and may ask you to get paid from them as well. Okay. And they are already representing the seller, so they do not have your best interest. They have best interest for the seller themselves. Okay. And when it comes to presentation, guys, we were mentioning this before the meeting. Few of you guys came in early, that we're making few changes to this presentation. It's called Keys to Home Ownership, and we're not starting out with who's involved, right? Because then we're going to be repeating ourselves. So we're going to be starting off with our budget, talk about our down payment, closing costs, their income, if their job changes, if they just graduated from college, what their credit scores look like, right? What credit scores really matter? You're really bringing value in the first 5 minutes. Okay, in the first 5 minutes, you have their full attention instead of going through all the steps, who's involved. That should come in later on. Okay, some of you guys will like this, some of you guys will not like this, but we will be setting up one-on-one meeting with every one of our agent. There's 70 of us, so there will be 70 meetings with me in the next 30 to 60 days, and we will have our agents come in. I'll pretend that I am a buyer, and you have to go through a buyer's presentation. If you want to use this one, great. If you want to come up with your own, that's perfectly fine. But if you're not doing a buyer's presentation, there's no way you're bringing any value. Okay, so this way it'll be a good opportunity uh, to tell them, hey, what it really takes, what are things that you should not do when you're buying a house, um, you know, why you should work with a realtor, what is a home inspection, appraisal, right? Financing contingencies. How are you going to really protect that client? So this is where before we start talking about contingencies, this is say, hey, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to negotiate and protect you every step of the way. There's going to be your home inspection, your appraisal, your financing, your title contingencies, and you talk about them. So if you as a realtor don't know what these contingencies are and how are you going to help them out? So this will be a good opportunity for us to go over through the buyer presentation and you know, maybe hopefully I can answer any questions and make this a little bit better for you guys. Okay, so let me just scroll down. So who's involved? This used to be page 2. Now it's on page 24. That means we're bringing this down all the way on the bottom. Okay, So there's a lot of pages on this. Every page, every step here should bring some value. There will be some things your client already knows. There will be many things your client does not know, and they will be surprised by it. Hey, Damium is actually giving me all this value. It's providing me with all these steps. A boss is going to be, guiding me all the way. If he's telling me all these steps right now, that means he's going to really help me out later on. So please, guys, when we call you in the next coming week or so to schedule a meeting, please do so with me. It could be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, really depending on you. But we want to go through this new presentation on one-on-one and make sure that we are on the same page. Okay? Anybody has any feedback for this, guys? Let me know. Okay? Okay, so what are some best practices when we're doing this, right? One is that you want to be transparent and you want to be upfront. You want to have an upfront conversation with the consumer about the written agreements. There was one where one client is asking, "Hey, I never heard of this agreement." Then you have plenty of articles. I'll probably do this another PDF for you guys where I'll put all the articles, all the LIBOR, FAQ, right, question and frequently asked questions regarding this. So you guys can just have a printout and give it to them. Hey, I'm not just pulling this out of the air. These are new laws, and you can look it up for yourself as well. Okay? And you want to have in-depth knowledge of the contract. It's going to be, you just can't say, hey, the answer is in the contract. As we mentioned, all those contingencies, you're going to be upfront with them. You're going to tell them all those things that are really important, and more importantly, how you're going to protect your buyer, first-time buyer, with these contingencies. Okay? And your duty is to be the force for your home buyer with all the decision making, right? He or she might be relying on you. Hey, you have sold X amount of houses. You are well experienced in this market. So every time you want to put in an offer, you want to renegotiate anything, you're the person, you're the licensed realtor out there, right? You guys have more than enough tools, more than enough experience. You have a broker that can help you guys out at any time. So use that. Just make sure that you're being very transparent with them and provide them with, let's say, when it comes to you want to put in an offer, send them enough screenshots of geodata, RPR. Send us a message. We'll tell you what the banks will appraise it at. So when you have enough sources, uh, when it comes to offer, they will rely on you. Okay, as we mentioned, you're going to spend time with role playing. This is exactly what we mentioned, that you're going to be setting up meetings with me, especially if you haven't done it with me for the previous presentation. We just want to go through this and make sure that you are improving. If you have any questions, you ask me. There are no stupid questions. We just want to make sure that you understand the concept and you can help out your client. Okay? And you want to study the market. We always mention this. Any market that you want to be in, right? You want to be in South Ocean Park, you want to be in Valley Stream, you want to be in Hicksville, doesn't matter what it is. You really need to study that market. And the most important is prospect, prospect, prospect. You don't want to rely on one or two people or one or two clients to make a living out of this, right? You need more than that. If your client is not picking up your phone calls, not answering, move on. Move on to the next one. Okay, you are doing your part. If you are go to KV Core and you don't have alert set up, that means you're not doing your part. If you have alert set up and KV Core is emailing them all the new properties in the morning, you're sending them text messages, hey, there's a new property, take a look at it, right? You're doing your part. Then you want to call them and follow up with them, and if they're not picking up, that's perfectly fine. They're not ready for you. Move on to the next client so you can actually close deals and make a good living out of this license that you have. You're already paying your MLS fees, guys. So why not make use out of this? Okay. Next is seller's market, buyer's market. Some of you guys are already using this. altosresearch.com/market underscore reports. So that URL, you should be going in there. So the market for this was a screenshot for this morning. For Elmont, it's a slight seller's market score of 42. And for Woodhaven, it has even a stronger seller's market rate of 50. So why is this data useful when it comes to offers? Hey, let's put in a solid offer because it's a seller's market. Let's put a little bit softer offer because it's a softer or it's a buyer's market there. Do the research before we put in an offer. Okay. Next, guys, is our office leads. Some of you guys like the new concept that we have. Instead of filling out any forms, we're going to be sending you guys a message in WhatsApp. So that means you have to be active on WhatsApp. And the rules are is one lead per agent every 48 hours. Okay? And the reply must be I want it or I'll take it. And we'll put that in the every time we're putting in there. If you say just hey, we don't know if you're saying hey to that. We give one lead to Vishal. Vishal, we gave that to you because you're brand new and you just wrote hey, but and someone else I think wrote me. We don't want those answers. We want you to be professional. Say, I want it, I'll take it. Any of those will be fine, right? We don't want to be confused that, hey, are you writing hey to that particular message or are you saying hey just in general? We don't know that. So reply must be I want it or I'll take it. Okay, more and more leads will be coming your way. Just make sure only accept it if you can actually get in touch with that buyer in the same day. Okay. Another one, if someone mentioned that, hey, this person was looking to relocate, that person was actually trying to sell their property. And I saw that not if a lot of you guys thought that it might be a good lead. That turned out to be a listing. Okay. So you don't know what type of lead you're going to get, but as long as you are ready to make that call with them, connect with them today, make sure that you can reply, I want it or I'll take it. If you write anything else, it will not be acceptable. Okay. Next is that we're scared of lawsuits. We don't want anybody to do a lawsuit against you or the company. We know that anybody can sue anybody, but to win it is a different story. We have these checklists, we have these documents that we want you to follow. Okay? In the beginning, when we started this company, you would close a deal, you give the check, you bring in your check, we would write you a check right away and give that to you, right? We cannot do that anymore because a lot of you guys are slacking. I'm sorry to put it that way when it comes to documentation. Right, we're looking for agency disclosure and you don't have that on file right now. Oh, I have it somewhere else. I'll get it for you. And that day never comes. Right? You probably have it in your file. We need it when you're bringing in your check. Okay? We had an issue with the final walkthrough. We need to have your buyer sign the final walkthrough checklist. Okay. And on top of that, we mentioned this in the last meeting that you should be asking at the final walkthrough a couple of days before to the listing agent, hey, we need to see the most recent utility bills. We want to be more proactive so we don't go through the same issue that we had with one of our closing where the gas bill, the gas was turned off for more than a year, but yet at the final walkthrough, I don't know how they did it, but it was illegal. They turned on the gas somehow, and during the final walkthrough, there was no issues. But after the closing happened, the gas was turned off, and when the new buyer, called up the utility company, they say, "Wait a minute, this bill or this account has been closed for more than a year." So we need to see the most recent bills for Con Edison, National Grid, basically the gas company, electric company, and the water company to make sure they are paid on time. Okay. So again, this was one of our agent mentioning that we should have a checklist on a separate page to make it easy for you guys, and we have done that. So on ljagent.com, you will see there's a checklist right next to forms now. So the first checklist that we have that we want to go through is your final walkthrough. Okay. Final walkthrough, we are asking for the property address, we're printing your buyer's name, and we're starting with outside. We want to make sure the garage is good, there's no debris outside the house, and there's no pest signs, everything looks good, there's no damage in the yard, that everything is good, right? We're not looking for any upgrades at this stage. We just want to make sure that everything looks good. So when you're going through them, just check it off all the list here. and then you check inside the house. You want to check for light fixtures. You look for outlets, make sure they're working. You want to check the faucets. You want to check for leaks, right? You want to check for mold, look for any water damage, right? Because you showed them a house about a month ago, maybe 45 days ago. Now you have a final walkthrough. If you never saw this mold before or you never saw this water damage before, now you see it, you should be questioning that. You don't want to be one of those agents and you want to do the cover up and say, hey, let me just move on to the next deal. No, we want to make sure that we get this right, right? You want to test all the appliances, including stove, washing machine, dishwasher. Make sure that the fridge is actually cold. Okay, check them off, and if everything is good, and you don't go down the lines. Windows as well. Windows open, windows close, windows lock. Make sure those are done. If your agent sees you do these things with them, hey, let's check the windows. You check that one, I'll check this one. They know you're really proactive with them, right? And that goes a long way instead of just sitting or standing on the side and letting them do all the checking, right? Flush the toilets. You want to do small things, guys, that will bring value to them. Once all those things are done, you want to keep checking them off. If there's any issues, you want to let the attorney know and you want to let the listing agent know that we have an issue, right? We need this document to be signed before the closing. And when you bring in your check, we need this document to be put on our file that, hey, our agent had you check everything and you have done that. And now we need your signatures. They're only going to sign if they're satisfied. Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes, yes, I'm listening. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Usually just the, usually just the water bill. So they're the attorneys because the water bills is usually every 2 months, so they're doing a prorated. But they're never touching utility bills when it comes to Con Edison or National Grid. Gas or electric, they're not touching it because it's on monthly basis, right? So the reason we brought this up was that because one of our closing, the gas was turned on during the final walkthrough. So our agent said, no problem, everything is good. And then after the closing, the buyer, the new buyer, calls up the gas company, and the gas company says, no, wait a minute, this account or this household's account has been closed for over a year now, right? So now, mm, right? Yeah, yeah. If I mean, you can request it. But if the attorneys put it there, that's great. But as a real estate agent, this should be part of our final walkthrough as well. So, hey, listing agent, yeah, yeah, we just want exactly, yeah. And you can give them this example that I'm giving you. Hey, right now, how do we know that this person doesn't owe X amount of money, or how do I know that the gas will, cut off this company will cut off this service right after the closing, right? I just want to make sure that there's no issues. This person has an active account as of today. So how do we gonna verify that? By the most recent bill, right? You're welcome. Yep, you're welcome. All right, guys, moving on to our checklist here, right? So this will avoid any disputes later on after the closing. Client can definitely sue you or LJ Realty team if they're not satisfied. If we have these documents signed, then we know that we had this document signed, there were no issues, and later on, if they anything comes up, that will be their responsibility. And this document, this checklist is going to be required for all future when we're exchanging our checks. Next is your closing buyer's closing checklist here. I would put them together. So your final walkthrough and buyer's closing is very straightforward. And you can do this at the final walkthrough. You can give that to them at the final walkthrough or at the closing table. It's perfectly fine, right? Maybe at the closing table might be a little bit better because they're already excited and they might ask you, hey, Hassan, what's the next step for me? The next step is your checklist. You just got the keys to this house. This is your house. And now make sure that you obtain change of address from the post office. You have a moving company if you need to, move your stuff. You notify your insurance company, right? There are a lot of things they already know. But when you have a checklist, you're making it easier for them, right? So when you're bringing this type of value, maybe they can give you referrals down the line. Hey, Hassan didn't just stop me here. He helped me out even after the closing. Okay. So all these checklists here, it's a great value proposition when it comes to your clients and you having a good long-term relationship. Okay. Second page of that will have your utility providers. Again, this was because of one of our agent. He said make a list with all the, National Grid, your Con Edison, and their phone numbers. So your client doesn't have to Google that. So again, if you want to add any companies here, just let me know. We can do it, but it has plenty of information to get started. Okay. Next, you have your agent check exchange checklist. Okay. Again, when we are closing a deal, some of you guys are coming in just with the check. And then we have few agents who are experienced, they're coming with this type of, papers, maybe 50 pages. So there's a difference with someone that's just bringing in a check and versus a person that's bringing in 50 pages that has almost everything. So number one is that contract, right? We need a copy of the contract for your own sake, guys. This was another closing that was done with one of our agent, and he mentioned at the closing there was no check for him. How it was a $14,000 check he's supposed to get. We send him a commission invoice, but the title company says, "Hey, you guys are not on the contract," right? How would you guys feel that you guys, spend 6 months with this client, finally, got into contract, 30 days into it, now you're finally at the closing table, you're super happy for your client, but you're not getting paid. You, as a realtor, have the right to ask for your contract and the contract, right? That's fully executed by both by your buyers and your seller. You want to have a copy of that contract. In the contract, there's a section or a clause or a paragraph, and there usually on the second or third page will say broker. In there you will see not your name, but you should see the company's name. If you see LJ Realty Team on the contract, you're good to go. That means the attorneys know that you are representing either the buyer or the seller. And you have your other brokers in there, that's great. If you don't see LJ Realty Team in the contract, that's a red flag, right? So please make sure you have a copy of the contract. So on the closing checklist, when you have a check with you, when you're coming to the office, have this checklist filled out beforehand. So you have your name, your client's name, your property address that you're purchasing or your client is purchasing. Either was it one family, two family, right? Because every commission level is different. So you want to check off, hey, this is a one family, or this was a mixed use, or this was a this is all commercial. And who did you represent? Did you represent buyer, seller, or both? And was this an office lead? Yes or no? Okay. And we need copies. When we say 50 pages, that's what we mean. We have your agency disclosure, we have your deal sheet, we have your closing disclosure CD, right? Some of you guys might say, hey, CD is from the loan officer. Why would I get a copy of it? We would need to make sure our commission is shown there, exact amount that we see on the check, and your name is listed there on the CD. Okay. You have your anti-discrimination disclosure, and you have your fully executed contract. And now we need to have your written agreements. Some of the closing you guys are doing, you guys don't have it because you were under contract before these changes happened. But now enough time has passed that every one of us should have a written agreement. So either you're getting paid from the buyer side or the listing agent might pay it, but we still need to see a written agreement. It is required. Okay. Then you write your commission, a total commission amount, what is your percentage, and what commission level you're on. If you don't know your commission level, I'm pretty sure it's one. Okay. If you know your commission level, that means you're paying attention. If you want to review your commission level before you fill this out, that's perfectly fine. I'll send you screenshots of all the closing you have done, all the rentals, and we can tell you what commission level you're on. Okay. And just for your knowledge, uh, Sheetal, I want to meet you. Okay. So just want to make sure that you guys just know that we are not displaying the commission levels anywhere right now, not on the website or anywhere like that. Because anybody that's joining us after this month or even starting last month, they have a different structure, completely different structure from you, but your structure will never change. Okay, whatever you're locked in at, you will be there for the rest of your life as long as you stick with LJ. Your commission will not change. Okay, but anybody else that's joining in, they do not have access to 100% commission. They stop at 90, and their rentals commission is not $100. It's more. So they have different splits. So if anybody new joining in, just make sure that they will have a different structure compared to you. Okay. And now when it comes to rentals, maybe you guys saw the message that we sent out last week. That is because there are some agents that we're finding out they're doing rentals and they're simply hiding that transaction from the brokerage. And it's really sad to see that all these meetings that we're doing, all these tools that we're providing enough, and we're very ethical when it comes to, our agent and broker relationship. We're not one of those brokerages where we're trying to take advantage. Uh, we're trying to provide more than enough to our agents. But it is pretty sad to hear that, hey, this agent does not want to share $100 with the brokerage because for whatever reasons they have. On top of that, we had, the renter gave a check for $2,100 and it was made out to LJ Realty Team. And one of our agents deposited that check into their personal account. You guys should know that that is fraud, that is illegal, and that can get you in a lot of trouble. So let's just play by the rules. If you're not comfortable with LJ, that's a different story. But any other brokerage that you guys can test out will be charging higher commission, a little bit more strict, um, you know. But I just don't know what to say when it comes to this. Hey, any $100, if you're not able to do this, some of you guys say, hey, it's it might be an attic or basement or garage. I don't care what it is. Any deal that you're a part of, we should be part of it as well. Okay. And the last is your advertisement checklist, guys. Right? If you guys are advertising, this is a checklist by New York State. It will give you everything line by line, and you guys can verify that. Okay. The best practice is that you send us the copy of your design to the office. You can send it in WhatsApp or you could do it in the email, any way you want. And either the office will approve it or tell you to make some edits. And we go back and forth until it's approved. Then you can go ahead and post it. Okay. Some of you guys are expert in this. I already told you guys that, hey, there's few agents that's posting online and they're following all the rules. There's no problem with you guys. But if you're new, you should definitely go through these steps to make sure that we all stay in compliance. Okay. All right, guys. Some of you guys are supporting our LJ Mortgage team, guys. Want to give a big thanks to you, for supporting us. But people who are not, just letting you guys know that we have plenty of options for your first-time home buyers, for investors, for small business owners, for your 1099 workers, right? We have plenty of options. So we have options where they can put down as low as 3.5%. They need just credit scores of 580. So that is your FHA loan, right? We will be providing that. If they're going with conventional loan, around 70 to 80% of our deals are done through conventional loans, and they can put down as low as 5%, but their credit score needs to be above 620. Okay. Then you have your home ready, your home possible. If their income is below $95,000 per year, then we can give them a conventional loan, and that allows them to put down as low as 3% down payment. For that, they still need their credit scores of 620 or more. Okay. And if they're an investor and they just want to buy a property and not live there, they can go with this type of loan. It's called DSCR. We're not even checking their income. We just want to make sure that the rental income is going to cover the mortgage and they're good to go. But they do need 20% down payment and they do need solid credit scores of 700 or more. Okay. Next, I want to give a big shout out to our agent, Mr. Ali. He have sold a property on 13212, 114th Street. So big ups to you, Mr. Ali. Mr. Aslam as well sold a house on 493 Hempstead Avenue. Big ups to you. This was a deal that we are talking about earlier. We want to make sure that our name is on the contract. Okay. We have a new property available in Brooklyn here by Jessica Ali. So if you guys are looking for a mixed use property, please go ahead and view this property. I believe the first floor is vacant. So support Jessica if you have a client. And for the mortgage team, guys, I just want you to get comfortable with Josh or one of our agents here or other loan officers and ask them any question that you might have for the loan programs or for pre-approval. Any of them can help you guys out. Okay. That will do it from my end, guys. I'm not feeling too well. Maybe you can hear in my voice, but um, that will do it from my end. Any questions, concerns, comments, guys?